Alright guys, welcome back to Max Boneyard Builds. Well, hopefully on that last video, hopefully you could tell that was staged just a little bit. I purposefully left the VATS enabled on the computer when we did the first test fire. Why? So that way, whenever it happens to you and you hear this, you know, you know what's going on. Everything's going to prime, everything's going to sound correct, like it's going to work. You're going to crank that key, it's going to pop off, a couple cylinders are going to fire, you're going to get excited, and then it's just going to fall flat on its face and act like everything turned off. And that's exactly what's happening. The VATS system, vehicle anti-theft system, on these motors, the motor talks to the body control module in the car. If they're not talking to each other, the PCM says, hey, I don't belong here, cuts the fuel off, and the motor just stops running. So that's exactly what happened to us. It fired off, a couple cylinders hit, the computer tried talking to the body control module, it wasn't there, boom, it turned the fuel off and it just fell flat on its face. So now what do we got to do? We're going to jump on the old universal patcher and PCM hammer in that. We're going to rework the PCM that came with the motor and everything. I did give it a shot of black paint. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. I got bored one night, cleaned it off and got a shot of paint on there, stuck it in the motor bay, but it's the one that came with it. That's the one that came with the motor. So I know that it's the 4.8 4L60, all that fun stuff that's supposed to be with that motor. So what we're going to do, we're going to hop on there, we're going to start going through these. I'm going to try and go through it slow, I guess you could say, methodically, just to show you guys exactly what you need to do to turn off the VATS. VATS is like one thing. You can go in there, turn off the VATS, plug it back in, put the new file on there, stick it in there, fire it up, gone. But we're going to get rid of the rear O2s and a few things, and after that, should be ready to roll. Alright guys, so what I chose to use was LS Droid on this one instead of PCM hammer. I had the cable connected, the battery power on, the ignition power on, chose the COM, and it found the OBDX Pro, and bam. Gave the VIN and all that fun stuff. It recognized that a PCM was hooked up to it. So I went to my tuner files, and I wasn't going to stick it in one of my random files that I've already got a few things in, so I made a new one. That way I kind of separated this project so I knew exactly where my files were. Made a LS Swap OBS project folder. Then inside that folder I named the file that we were getting ready to pull, the bin file. I wanted to make sure that I knew that I had the original bin file. I labeled it the O2 stock bin file, I think it was. Always keep your original file. You have to make sure you keep your original file. That way, in case you end up changing an O2 setting or an EGR setting, or I don't care what it is, you play around with it, you can always go back to your original file. So I saved the original. It takes a few minutes. Let's buzz through that. We'll see what we got afterwards. Alright, so it did its thing. And then LS Droid goes in, it clears everything out on the PCM, all the, I don't know what you want to call it, the flash memory maybe, I don't know what a good word is for it, but it clears the PCM out. Do not do anything with the power or ignition unless it tells you to do it. I'm telling you, if you get halfway through and you don't cycle it, like here it's telling me to cycle the key, so I'm cycling the key right now. Boom, go over. Then you have a wait down period for that residual ignition power. You got to make sure it's out of there before you start going to the next step. And they did a very good fail safe on here with having the countdown system. It really makes sure that you don't mess anything up. So here it is. I think it's asking for me to turn it back on. I cycle the key back on. I update the system. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, since I've got emissions where I'm at, I'm going to have to make sure that this dog passes emissions. So I'm going to change the VIN number on the PCM. So that way, whenever they go to run the emissions on this vehicle, they're going to be able to plug it in, and the VIN number for the vehicle that I'm wanting to run, which is the 98, not the 02 donor that's in the junkyard, is going to come up. So right down here, you can actually change the VIN file. You go in there, you plug in your VIN, you go over to the box, change VIN, and it's step by step. It tells you exactly what it wants you to do. You know, it's just like what we just did. Ignition on, ignition off. Okay, so then opened up Universal Patcher. I went, open up my file, go to where my file is saved, desktop, bin files, LS project. And I went and I did the one with the VIN swap. Don't ever mess with your original. Make sure you always go down to the one that you want to play with. So mine's the VIN swap. On Universal Patcher, first thing that's going to come up is going to give you everything. You can go in there and you can start tinkering around, looking at all the different things that you can play with on the Universal Patcher. For me, I've only got a few things in mind that I want to mess with. First thing is the number one that's not making this project run is the VATS. So go up to your search bar on the left, type in VTD, Vehicle Theft Deterrent, VTD. You're going to show it's going to have a couple, anything that has VTD in it, it's going to say, hey, this is where it's at. Double click that box, it brings it up. If you hover over it, it tells you what the ones and twos and zeros and what it does. We want none, we want it gone. After you click it, save what you want, hit save. That saves the file. Hey, I made a change and I want to save it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to the mills, MIL. You open it up and you check the boxes until you find, bam, here is all of your check engine lights. Okay, that's what your mill is your check engine lights. And now you have all of your options all through here to where you can turn on, turn off, not report. You know, there's several different options that you can do. You can have it immediately throw a check engine light if something's wrong. You can have it run the car a few times to see if something's wrong, or if something was just wrong one time on accident. Or you can just have it store the code but not throw the light, or you can just say don't pay attention to this at all. And obviously don't pay attention to this at all is what we're looking for, because we don't want anything stored on the system. So we're going through, and obviously all the after CAT bank 2, your bank 1, sensor 1, sensor 2, those are your pre-CAT oxygen sensors. You want those, so that way the motor knows if it's running lean, rich, so forth. But then you're going to go back, and all your bank 2s after the catalytic converters, those are the ones that's going to start throwing your check engine lights in that. Go in there, you're going to turn them all to disabled, and you're going to turn the check engine lights off. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of them. Anything, because even if you just check it for a lean rich condition, but you get rid of those, but if you leave like the heater, like is it actually heating up or not? If you leave that in there, it's going to throw the code again. So you want to make sure anything with the bank 2 O2 sensors, unless you're doing an absolute 100% emissions friendly, those are the ones you want to get rid of. Otherwise, you're going to be throwing codes all the time. So right now I'm going to start scrolling through here, looking for anything else that I want to make sure doesn't throw a check engine light or isn't emissions related that I wanted to make sure to get rid of. Okay, now if yours has an EGR system and you're getting rid of that EGR system, here's all these are going to be illuminated. You're going to have to check yours, because if they're on there but you're getting rid of the EGR system, get rid of it. But this O2 did not come factory with an EGR system, so I didn't have to worry about those. And here's some more catalyst stuff. It's actually going to register off those O2s if it's going, there's rear O2s. Hey, is the catalytic converter working efficiently or not? I don't want those in there. I want to take those out so that way it's not throwing codes saying that the catalytic converter is not working efficiently. I want to make sure that none of those are reported to the PCM. Now for me, I'm keeping the evap system. I want to make sure the evap system still works, and that way the evap system shows that it's all working correctly on my emissions. So I'm going to try and keep those in there for now. I may have to go back and do a little tinkering with having them stored but not throwing mills, or I don't know what the circumstance is, but for most guys they're gonna get rid of all that stuff out of the system, so that way it's not throwing a check engine light, especially if you're doing it on like an 80s or a 70s or something like that. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. What I'm doing here is I'm just scrolling through all of the check engine lights, seeing what will pop off this check engine light, what's anything that could be emissions related that I'm not going to try and utilize, all that stuff. I mean, as you can see, the list just goes on and on and on. Take your time, go through it one by one, kind of like what I'm doing, seeing if there's anything that you need to get rid of, that you need to alter a little bit, whatever your circumstance is. Everybody's build's different, so don't think that this is exactly what you have to do on your build. I'm not saying that by any means, but everything's just a little bit different. So, you know, a lot of these things you might want to look at. Do you need it? Do you not need it? And go on. You can see this one here, the vehicle ID blocked or corrupted. I'm assuming since I changed the VIN number with LS Droid, that should be good to go. I guess we'll find out. You may be getting an update with me if it doesn't pass emissions. I don't know. First time doing a swapper, I'm gonna have to do emissions, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, so now we're at the end of the mills, and that's all I want to do on this right now. That's all I want is just get rid of the VATS, get rid of the O2. So you're going to go up, and you're going to save bin as. Then you're going to rename it as a new bin. So now we've got our stock one, 100% stock. Then we have another one that is where I just changed the bin. Now I'm going to make one more, and I'm going to label this one with VATS and the rear O2s disabled. And I know that this is the first time that I've disabled something as far as the mill category goes, I guess you could say. And I'm going to save that file, and it's going to give me a whole new bin file. As you can see on the bottom left, it shows where it made the changes. You can see where it took out the mill lights in that. And you run through and you see what it did change, what it didn't change. It gives you like a health report, so to speak, as to what took place as it rewrote it. Now, say you did something like a transmission alteration that wasn't happy with it or something, to check some would come back. And down here at the very bottom, keep scrolling down here, you wouldn't get the OK down here at the bottom. You'd get an error. Okay, but I got the OK at the very bottom that was able to write that new bin file without an error, so I know that that new bin file is good to go. All right, now that your file is saved, go back to LS Droid. I'm not going to show you my new VIN number, but anyways, you go to Write to PCM, then you're going to go up to the top, and you're going to select calibrate. You're going to change the things that you changed, you know. And this is good to read through. It tells you, by all means, while this thing's writing, do not disrupt the power. Make sure your power supply is good. Do not turn off the ignition. Don't do anything stupid. Otherwise, you're going to break your PCM and you're not going to be happy. That's basically what this says. So acknowledge, click next, pick which file you want to write. This is the file I want to write. I know the operating system's good because I did everything from the original, or from, it all started from the original. And then it's going to talk to the PCM, make sure everything's happy, and then it's going to write away. Then after it's done writing, it's going to clear any errors, any short-term memory, whatever's going on in there, whatever LS Droid magic that it does its thing, clears everything out, and it lets you know whenever you're good to disconnect it. Right there. Key cycle it off, it'll save it. And here's where you key cycle back on for it to power up the PCM again. So there it is. The system's updated. The things that we changed, the VATS and the O2s and all that fun stuff, has now been rewritten onto the PCM. It's good to go. Now you can close everything out, disconnect it, unhook that blue connector, throw it in that car, and see what happens. Okay guys, as you can remember, this is the bench setup. If you haven't watched my tuning video on LS Droid, PCM Hammer, Universal Patcher, all those fun programs, free programs that are out there, check out that video. I kind of talk you through it, but real quick, you're going to have your PCM, connect your blue connector. I suggest the OBDX Pro, going to their website, picking up one of their dongles. I got the VT. Make yourself your bench harness with an ignition source and a constant battery source. Have a constant 12-volt power supply, and obviously your PCM, your PC that has all of those programs on it. And so just that easy, guys. Once you get done programming, changing the parameters that you want, go back in. You can go to LS Droid, you can go to PCM Hammer, whichever one you prefer. Write your new file back on to your PCM. Once it's all done, it'll tell you that it's all done. It gives you the okay at the end. You gotta do, kill your ignition, kill your battery, unplug it from your blue connector. Let's see if it works. All right, it's the next morning. Got the freshly de-vatted PCM on there, got the jump pack on there. Now I got a little more faith in it. Let's see what happens. Open headers, she's alive. That was running wide open. I'm not quite sure why. VATS is off. Throttle's down. Boy, that'll wake you up. Well, VATS is obviously off, but she's running wide open. I'm going to have to try and cobble together some sort of an exhaust system somehow. Otherwise, it's going to make me deaf. Let's work on that. Tell you what, open headers. It don't take a whole lot of throttle to sound like this thing's a runaway train. I took a few minutes, looked around. I could not figure it out, but we did. Let me show you what's going on. So of course, first thing I thought was, like a vacuum leak, like it's getting air from somewhere else. Checked the brake booster line. Man, I was checking all your PCV. I thought maybe this got unhooked. I don't know. I mean, I was checking everything. It was just sucking tons of air. So then I went ahead, popped off the cable, or popped off the air box. She was sitting about like that, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I'm pushing on it, and it felt like it was going down all the way. That's down all the way. It was sitting like that. Quarter throttle, maybe a little less than quarter throttle. My cable lines are too short. As you can see, like that. That's how she was hung open. To my naked eye, looking in there, I thought that was closed. But as soon as you pop that off, that's closed. So you can see it was holding it open that much. So that's why she was revving to the sun. Cables are too short. So I'm going to see if I can't maybe try and adjust this bracket a little bit, try and move it up, see if there's a way I can figure that out. If that doesn't work, we're going to have to X-nay on those cables, get us some from like an O2 donor or something, but that's what's going on. But the purpose of this video was not throttle cables. It was VATS removal. And VATS is gone. She fires up quite well. So I'm going to work on some cables. That's how you get your VATS off. And you guys keep working on the projects. And even if you get setbacks like this, don't let it discourage you. If you're going to do any sort of hot rod work, project car, or whatever, you're going to have setbacks. Don't let them defeat you, guys. This is just one more thing I get to tinker with in the garage. I appreciate you guys stopping by Max Boneyard Builds. You got any questions, comments, anything, hit me up. If you're new to the channel, right down there somewhere, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. And after I figure this out, I'll see you next time. Max Boneyard Builds.